Hey guys, this is Mr. V. I'm going to be doing a book review today for Stephen King's Dark Tower Book 5, Wolves of the Calla. Before I start my review, you guys should know that I try to do a spoiler-free book review, or just very minor spoilers, and that if you guys see me look down occasionally, I'm just looking at my book review notes so I don't give you guys any spoilers. So, again, I'll be reviewing The Dark Tower Book 5, Wolves of the Calla. So, Wolves of the Calla is about Roland and his quartet, and they continue to go towards the Dark Tower. But it's also about a town, the Calla, and they are terrorized by these, these wolves, or they're like almost like these soldiers that ride in every 23 years, and they ride in on horses, and they have weapons, and they steal about half the kids, or they kidnap half the kids in the town. And the town can't fight back, they don't know how to fight back, and they basically, they're just terrorized by these wolves just over every 20 years. And then when the kids do come back, they're mentally challenged, and they have physical deformities, to where the town normally just went along with it because they didn't know how to fight back. But this time, they are going to try to fight back with the help of Roland and his quartet, as they are gunslingers. So that is the basic premise for the book. I'm going to go quickly into the book review. Just so you know, I read this on the Kindle. So I assume this would still be in the hard cover version, but on the Kindle version, one thing I really liked was that they gave a summary of the first 4 books. And what I mean by that is they didn't just give you an overall summary of all 4 books. They actually went into a quick summary of book 1, quick summary of book 2, quick summary of book 3, and a quick summary of book 4, which really helped a lot because I've said in previous reviews is that, we all have a life. Sometimes it can be multiple months between reading some of the previous books, and I'm reading books in between, and it does help to get a refresher. You remember the general aspects, but it does help to get a refresher about what happened in book 2 or book 3, as many of the things are brought up throughout this book. Of course, the man in black is brought up, but they bring up about in book 1, when Roland had to release Jake and end up basically killing Jake, or they talk about the door from book 2, and they talk about Blaine the monorail from book 3, and I think his name is Balazar as well. They talk about all that throughout the book. So it does help getting a quick refresher on that. And, I really enjoyed that. Before I go further into the book review, one thing I would say is I recommend reading Salem's Lot by Stephen King before reading Wolves of the Calla. While it's not essential, and you can still enjoy the book without having read Salem's Lot, one of the main characters in Wolves of the Calla is Father Callahan. And he is also one of the main characters in Salem's Lot. And, Father Callahan kind of describes the story throughout, and, what happened in his life. And, of course, because he was one of the main characters in Salem's Lot, he talks about Salem's Lot. And that's why, while it's not a necessity to read it, I do recommend it. And especially if you are going to want to read Salem's Lot at some point, because this book basically ruins Salem's Lot, as it tells you what happens at the end, and it tells you so much about the book that if you want to read Salem's Lot, read it before this, because Wolves of the Calla ruins Salem's Lot. So that's just my recommendation. But back to the book review for Wolves of the Calla. So I thought, I really enjoyed this book a lot because I felt it was suspenseful right from the beginning. Because in the prologue, they are already discussing the wolves. The town is already discussing the wolves and what are they gonna do. And they're like, okay, they're gonna be coming soon. What do we do? And Stephen King's already building the suspense in the prologue, and he just continues throughout the whole book. And it's like he's done it throughout the series, but it's like um, he's making you wonder so many things whenever you're reading these books, because you keep going further and further along in this book, and it makes you wonder, okay, what year is it? What is going on with this like multiverse thing? And I can't go further in depth about it, but it's like, some of the stuff that happened to Father Callahan or happened to Jake and happened to Eddie, you're like, wait, what is going on here? And when I say what is going on, I say that in a good way. That it does make you just wonder so much. And it's like, especially the year, like what's going on? Where are they exactly? And he just has done it throughout the series, and he continues to do it. And when you think you know what's going to go on, or what will happen, that's when he just throws a curveball in there. And the curveball is always a great one. There's some kind of big suspenseful aspect, and it's happened throughout the series, and he did it again in this book. And you continue to learn more about the Dark Tower, and you continue to learn more, but there's still a lot of suspense in there, and he just is right from the beginning. And I thought he did that in a great way. um, I would say, there were some parts that were just a little confusing, but I think the confusion was on purpose. I don't think it was an accident. I think he did the confusion because then it makes you wonder more about the Dark Tower, and it makes you think more about, like, okay, what is going on? Is it A, or is it B, or is it C? What will happen next? And I think it was thrown in there on purpose. um, Whereas, when I read Dark Tower 4, um, I did not enjoy the Dark Tower 4 as much. If you guys go back to my review, when I reviewed Dark Tower 4, I didn't enjoy it as much because I actually felt that a lot of the Dark Tower 4 was below average to average, and I thought some parts of it stretched too much. Whereas the Dark Tower 5 was not that way at all. It was very consistent. I would say the whole book was above average the whole time. I don't think he stretched it out too long, but I don't think he cut it down too much either. I think he had a good length for most of the book, and it was consistent throughout. And that's where, but and I still enjoyed the Dark Tower 4, but I thought it was the end of the Dark Tower 4 that kind of saved that book from um, being an above average book for Dark Tower 4. For Dark Tower 5, it was consistent throughout. And I also thought there was a decent end for this. You could say the only downfall I would see in this book was it was a decent end. What I mean by that is, well, first, it should be noted that there was kind of a double end, because one ending is like, can Roland help that town? Can Roland and his quartet help that town? And what happens with that aspect? And then the other end is in the epilogue about Roland and his quartet continuing towards the Dark Tower and what happens there. And, I thought that the ending of can Roland and his quartet help the town was still a decent ending, but I think that they could have added a little bit more to that end, because there was a big build-up. As this is still a book's about, depending on which copy you get, it's like 750 to 800 pages. So, I thought they did a lot of build-up, and the end was somewhat short, to where I thought he could have added more, but, who knows? Maybe he just did the right amount of time. But for the other end, where they're continuing towards the Dark Tower, I thought that was amazing, because Stephen King left it on a cliffhanger. And I thought that was so much fun, and it added so much, and it makes you want to go out and start reading The Dark Tower 6, because it's like he left it on a cliffhanger. And I can't go in depth about that, but I thought that was amazing. So I'm going to rate this book. I always rate my books on a scale of 0 to 10. A 0 is an awful book that I just hated. 5 is average, and 10 is phenomenal. Like, make that your next reading book type. Very few books reach the 0 category, just as very few reach the 10 category. Because, again, a 5 is average. So, for this book, I would rate it a solid 7. I rated it a solid 7 because it was consistent throughout the book. in that he didn't rush along, but he didn't slow down. There wasn't really much boredom in there. You know, it was consistently moving along. And that's why I rated this a solid 7. And 7 is not easy to get to in my reviews because, again, a 5 is average, but I don't move books up that easily. And it's very difficult for books to get to a 7. And I could even see rating this as high as a 7.5, to where I'd rate it between a 7 to a 7.5 because I thought it was consistent throughout. But then when he had that end, you know, he had a decent end with the town and what happens, but then also leaving on a cliffhanger for going towards the Dark Tower. So I thought that was an amazing way to end it, to where that's why I could see it getting as high as a 7.5. But I assume if you guys have already reached Dark Tower 5 that you will continue the series, but I highly recommend going out and getting this book because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very consistent and, you know, just very entertaining. So again, I recommend you guys go out, get the Dark Tower Book 5, Wolves of the Calla. If you guys have any comments or anything like that, please comment below. I hope you guys click the subscribe button. This is Mr. V. Hope you guys go and enjoy the book.